What is this song? You ask. And the answer is that this song is by Kevin MacLeod. Kevin MacLeod. Okay. Well, welcome everybody. We're live. So I wasn't going to do a live stream right now, but here I am doing one because I was doing a test and, trying to figure out some stuff for a stream that's happening tomorrow. And being cool is for nerds and my brother Rivera were both in the chat, as well as one other person who hasn't said anything. Oh, who is that? I don't know. But that person, all three of you have been in here for a while, so I thought I'd at least stop in and say hello. Hi. So hello. I'm sitting on a couch right now. And yes, I'm wearing a Bernie shirt because there's no point giving up yet, even though it seems like the rest of the world has already decided that it's just not plausible, which is kind of astonishing, the effectiveness of the mainstream media machine in its ongoing attempt always to manufacture consent. That is to say, to brainwash everyone into thinking that what is plausible, what is most plausible, is whatever's in the best interests of established power. So giving up isn't an option, says Rivera. Yeah, I don't think it's an option. I just read an article by Nathan J. Robinson, my favorite SJW hipster journalist of them all. Except, is he a journalist? I'm not really sure if he considers himself a journalist. He writes great articles, and he wrote one on Elizabeth Warren. It said that we should be concerned. We should be concerned about about a potential candidacy, a Warren candidacy. Basically, his reasoning, there's a lot of arguments people will bring up, and they're good as far as they go. But do they get at what's most essential with what's going on? Well, that's the real philosopher's question: is what's most essential, and are we focusing on inessential things, right? Like the similarities. When it comes to policy, the similarities between Bernie and Warren are not essential. I mean, they kind of are, but they're not the most essential, I will argue. And that is because it's not this isn't a matter of let's just say that Bernie gets literally copied. We have two Bernies now. And then sex change. So now we have a woman and Bernie, and then the woman has all of the same stuff as Bernie. Okay. Well, the question is do they have the life up to that point? Do they have the hard work and proven track record of a 70-year struggle for economic, ecological, and social justice? Well, that would be the question, wouldn't it? When it comes to Warren, though, the answer is that she's not a direct copy. She's a step down when it comes to policy in a lot of ways, insofar as she may or may not be for the Green New Deal, which is obviously a question, or for Medicare for all, or for abolishing student debt. Any one of these things is something that. The real question is how serious is she about them? And is this something that she's going to literally dedicate everything to trying to achieve? Probably not. And then, is she even electable? I don't think she'd be able to stand up to Trump because the fact is she doesn't deal with the Pocahontas thing very well, does she? She doesn't deal with it very well. Maybe it's not fair that she should have to deal with it. Maybe not. But the fact is she doesn't handle it well. And we all know where Trump's going to be that whole debate. And the fact is we're not talking about people who are fine with Warren and Bernie, losing them. We're talking about losing people who are 100% disenchanted with the limousine liberal class. The limousine liberal class. The limousine's liberal class is the liberal part of the 20%. The 20% are the doctors and the lawyers who work for the 1%. Okay? The 20% does not represent the 80% of Americans. The other 80% of Americans who mostly resent the 20%. The 20% has a liberal class and it has a conservative class. And then there's in-betweeners. And obviously because they're all there trying to maintain and expand their power. And sometimes that means, sometimes that has to do with profit more than other things. Then obviously they can all get together around those kinds of power interests. But when it comes to 80% of Americans who are completely disenchanted and disillusioned with the 20% and their media, right? The media that is mostly owned by the 20%ers. Yeah, I don't see Warren doing anything beyond preaching to the choir with the already self-assured 20%ers and a handful of like woke 80%ers. Everyone else is going to be like, I just don't trust like that. And I'd be like, well, I don't blame. Oh my God. Anne's in the chat. Sorry. Lefty Flossy's in the chat. Wow, look at all these peeps. Hold on. What's going on over here, y'all? I want to bring the chat up onto the screen. I was just doing a little rant about stuff. We don't have to do that anymore. This is cool. All right. How does this work? What am I doing? I'm just sharing the screen. Why is it doing it this way? Oh, it's because of... Huh. Well, I could fix it more, but I'm going to go ahead and just keep it this way for now. So everything's working, right? I know that there's a bad leg, as always, but... Bernie wigs. I don't know if I need a Bernie wig. I could probably just... There you go. All messy hair is Bernie branding. That should be the... Oh, you want to go to a protest? Just mess up your hair. You're ready to go. Oh, you're talking about me, LOL. Oh, that... Was that from when I said that there was a third person who'd been lurking for, like, the whole time? Was that literally someone named Indirect Existence? Oh, the irony. Well chosen name. Yeah, Warren does not stand up. Okay, this is Anne talking. Yeah, Warren does not stand a chance, but almost my whole family is leaning towards Warren over Bernie because of Bernie's age and because Warren is more realistic. Is my voice still changing? Oh, my voice is still changing. Are you kidding me? Oh my God, how did this happen? I'm a Keebler elf, y'all! That shouldn't be happening. Okay, in my experience, if my voice becomes like a Keebler elf, it's because it's at the wrong hertz level in the settings. But I am not. Amazing. Amazing. High gain, not high again. Being cool is for nerds. This is hair dye. I did it just like the Joker. I said, my life is miserable. I hate capitalists. So I'm going to dye my hair. There you go. Side note, let's talk about the Joker for a minute. Has anyone seen it? I'm not going to spoil it. I'm not going to spoil it. I'm not going to spoil it. Except if you get online at all, then you already know that there is outrage. And on the one hand, well, I don't know enough about the outrage. I don't know enough about why people are mad. Now, I did watch it. I definitely know that there's reasons to be mad. I just don't know what the mainstream complaints are. From a leftist perspective, it should be pretty obvious that this isn't giving the working class and, especially in its class warfare, a very charitable look. Some people are saying, look, they're trying to make it out to be like every socialist is an incel. Or like, oh, look, this was actually about incels. So I can touch on why I think that's all wrong, or at least expand off of it in a second. I'm just curious to see what everyone else is saying. It's on Lefty Philosophy's shit of list to see. That's a good list. Is it a long list? I want to see that list. Being Cool's for Nerds has not seen Joker. Okay, so we've got a majority of people in here who've not seen Joker. That's what I'm seeing. Yeah, Rivera brings up what's going on with the Kurds. So, basically the Kurdish people are getting screwed by the U.S., specifically Trump. This is something Democrats and Republicans are mad at him for. And honestly, it'll probably be the biggest shit smear on his presidency. I say that it's not the actual worst, maybe it's not the actual worst thing of his presidency, but it will be the one that is almost like universally agreed upon as the worst thing. Like you're not going to get Republicans to say that, children dying of starvation in cages because they were forcibly separated from their parents who were fleeing a situation created by the United States that we take zero responsibility for and instead have been punishing people from the Northern Triangle for. You're not going to get Republicans saying that that's the... you're not going to get Republicans who say that that's the worst thing Trump's done. Because Republicans have a very limited locus of empathy. It only extends to the people they have to deal with on a regular basis. And usually the ones who speak the same language and have the same skin color, But no, everyone was able to see that the Kurdish resistance to ISIS that the United States was helping with was a legitimate endeavor with or without the United States helping it. It's like, Assad seems to be a bad actor regardless of who is helping him. He might be better than some of the alternatives. But Rojava especially is just, if they're just good. I haven't seen nobody's like, oh, they're bad. And they're not just good. From what I understand is like we're talking experiments in radical democracy and anarchist and socialist organizing. So I guess I don't want to speak too much about the situation because I don't know enough about it. All I'm going to say is that if Bo from the Fifth Column is right, this will probably go down in history books as the most universally agreed upon atrocity on Trump's part, especially because it's just, yeah, when you're going against everybody's, better judgment, and it seems to be like a petty ego thing that you're doing it for, like the whatever he has to gain is nothing compared to what's being lost. But let's go back to the Joker though really quick. Everyone's talking about the Kurds. So I'm going to take another second to read these comments. The worst thing that Trump has done is not jumping into a paper shredder. I've liked this stream for 10 minutes. I've liked this stream like 10 times, but then when I look down, it's showing as not liked again. That is weird. Honestly, we should be seeing like 11 likes, all from Steve right now. On top of that, the Kurds are in control of an ISIS prison housing like 1,000 people. Why the fuck would you just leave it? I used to be a medic in an Iraqi detention facility. You did? Lefty philosophy? Wow. Java is the only Middle Eastern country with egalitarianism in their constitution. Everyone equal under the law. Yeah, and it says men and women at the very beginning, apparently. I need to read it myself. Lefty philosophy loves Bo. Good. Good. Anyone who doesn't love Bo. Basically, Bo and Bernie are my two, like, fingers in the wind. You know what I mean? I look for free spirits. I look for free thinkers. I look for people who aren't trying to toe a party line, who are trying to sort things out for themselves so that they can live in good faith in this world with others and not be terrible, shitty people. Okay? And I think Bernie and Bo are probably my two favorite, like, litmus tests, to mix my metaphors, for figuring out if a person is reasonable, if a person is reasonably searching for solutions in good faith. And I say Bo and Bernie, and this is obviously my own biases. Duh. I shouldn't even have to say that, but obviously. But you know, I'm used to people speaking to people from the rural part of every country and every, you know, state, as though they're a bunch of idiots, right? And it's kind of like, you know, with you have the liberal and conservative divide and how it plays out versus, you know, in urban versus rural settings. I just the condescending way that liberals talk to and about conservatives just makes my stomach roil. Just like, it just makes me want to fucking I just really can't stand it. Okay. And I think Bo and Bernie model how to speak to people who aren't looking to toe a party line, but are instead looking for others who speak to their values and then propose value-driven goals that say, you know what, these are my values, and here's the problems that we're facing, and here's some solutions. Let's talk about these solutions. Let's strategize and then mobilize around them. Bo and Bernie they take the cake for that entire mode. That's a mode that isn't looking to preach to the choir, and it's also a mode that's not looking to try to get everybody to join the religion of your own personal political comprehensive list of prerogatives, where you're expecting them to sign off on a fucking 1,000 things that only you and 50 people on a message board somewhere actually agree with. God. I don't know. Yeah. That's the religious version of politics, where instead of looking to build coalition around specific issues, you're looking to build the friend group by adding people who only agree with on basically everything that you and the friends in your little group already agree on. So, yeah, Bernie and Bo take the cake on that. Okay, but Theory, you said you were going to say something about Joker. Okay, but Theory, you also said that you were going to talk about this thumbnail. No, I didn't say I was going to talk about this thumbnail, but I am going to show it to you so that I can talk about it before I talk about Joker. Okay, so what's going on here? Obviously, if you explain a joke, then it's no longer funny. There's a lot of reasons to love this thumbnail beyond the mere fact that I did it. I did do it, and obviously that's a reason to love it, but it's not a very good reason. A better reason to love it is, well, there's no other way to say how I see Nietzsche than this picture. Because Nietzsche takes naive, simpering, self-aggrandizing. What was that list again? Naive, simpering, self-aggrandizing, socialists and Christians, utopians, all of them, and says, God damn it, life's more complicated. And I think that what he ends up doing for the Christians and for the socialists who have taken him seriously over the course of the last, I don't know, 150 years or so. I have actually no idea how long ago Nietzsche died or lived. I know that his birthday is tomorrow, which is what this, this is what this is for. I can just say that the Christians and socialists who, since his work, kind of entered into its place alongside the canon, right? He's not really canon, but he's kind of got his own kind of anti-canon position alongside the canon, critiquing the canon. And so enemies of the canon like Nietzsche, okay? That includes champions of post-colonial and feminist literature like Gayatri Spivak or Judith Butler, who they love Nietzsche. How could they possibly love Nietzsche when he says that woman was God's second mistake, or when he just says lots of pretty absurd sounding things. And at the end of the day, he's known for talking about like slave morality versus master morality. He's known as being a champion of master morality. Master morality and pretty much that entire mood gets its proper popularist treatment as a mode in the hands of Ayn Rand and Jordan Peterson both. Jordan Peterson and Ayn Rand, with their brand of individualism, is a cheap Sparks Notes straw man of Nietzsche. But even if we said that the cheap straw man of Nietzsche was the real Nietzsche, there's still the issue is that you can have a simplistic, a naive kind of Christianity or a naive kind of socialism that you embrace, right? Maybe you believe that there used to be some perfect state of nature where all humans got along fantastic in a matriarchal society, and there was enough to go around for everybody, and then that's all been ruined by the advent of agriculture, which brought along patriarchy, which then brought along, and then you move on down the line where obviously everything is phallogocentric and exploitative, and it gets worse and worse and worse. And so that form of socialism is obviously kind of can be it's similar to the kind of Christianity where it's just like everything was hunky-dory, everything was perfect, and then humans came along and messed it all up, and that's in nature. And we just have to believe in the better angels of ourselves, whether we're socialists or Christians. We have to believe in the better side. The better side is the side that practices empathy and looks out for the poor, the underdog, and by cultivating that side of ourselves that has been stifled by civilization and by the world, we'll be able to usher in a better existence, either the kingdom of heaven or the communist society at the end of history. Okay. The Nietzsche is a way of critiquing these simplistic takes, and what I think is that on the other side of contending with him, and taking him as an archetype for a mood, but also taking him as an archetype for a sort of anti-philosopher, taking those things as the serious problems that they are, and trying to think through what that challenge means. I think that makes us better. I think that it makes socialists better. I think it makes Christians better. And And so for that reason, I say Nietzsche is valuable. Because my favorite socialists and my favorite Christians have always been sort of post-Nietzschean. But at this point, everything I just said was an interesting thesis only if you're used to hearing people make claims about Nietzsche, about how he's good or bad. It's if you're kind of outside of that whole conversation, then everything I just said is probably kind of boring. And you might be thinking, well, shit, I either fall inside of that simplistic, camp that is being critiqued, and in that case, I'm being critiqued, and I either want to show up tomorrow for that live stream or I don't. But in either case, it'll be so I can find out how I am being critiqued. Or you're thinking, I'm so annoyed by so many naive Christians or socialists, so this must be, I'm sure that Nietzsche is on my side. And maybe he is, but yeah, there's a lot there to unpack with Friedrich. You don't roll R's for German. Friedrich Nietzsche, however you actually say it. There's a lot going on there, and I'm going to treat his birthday tomorrow, the interview that's happening with a secret guest. I'm going to treat that as an introduction to Nietzsche. The goal is that if you've heard about him, but you don't know anything firsthand about him, I will be the one who's there to say, having a firsthand relationship with Nietzsche and his work is worthwhile. Here's my personal testimony about why it's worthwhile. And then that'll be alongside the guest, who will also be explaining why they think it's worthwhile. Am I still talking with the wrong voice? I bet I am. I couldn't figure anything out about that. This was an unplanned stream, so anyone who's just dropped in, this was an unplanned stream. My voice also was not planned to be a chipmunk, so I'm gonna put the comments back up. Bye, Ann. Spy says something about what? Okay, lots of good comments, but I don't want to go off onto another tangent on something that already got left behind either, so. Oh, wow. Manny, glad to hear you learned about Bo from me. Thank you. Thanks for the link, Steve. All right, peeps. Listen, my voice is still bad. Oh my god, it's not just bad; it's also choppy. Thanks, Thomas, for letting me know that. But whatever, I've got a choppy helium voice, and I'm gonna talk with it. So, Dorian Sapien says, didn't Nietzsche? By the way, hi Dorian. Says, didn't Nietzsche say to go beyond both master and slave morality? Yes. Yes, but also if you read Beyond Good and Evil, it's not the most obvious thesis. Okay, it's not the most obvious thing. If you read it, it sure sounds like he is championing the brutish aggressor, the tough person who lives their entire life in a sort of privileged bubble. of taking things for granted and taking things as though they belong to them. And it does seem like he's championing that. And if someone is reading it and getting that bad taste in their mouth that he does champion the master morality, I think that that's actually the impression that you're supposed to get when reading it. Though he is making the argument that rather than explain what it is like reading it, I'll just say that there are different value frameworks. Within the value framework of an oppressor, the oppressor is doing nothing wrong by taking things and assuming that those things belong to them. Within the value framework of the oppressed, obviously that's wrong. His point is that the oppressed and the value frameworks that they subscribe to are an inversion of the master framework. So the master has a framework where what is good is what's on top. What is good is what is strong. What is good is, obvious. And it has to do with wealth and health. And there have been obviously different historical attempts at laying out a religion, a morality, an ethics of the oppressed. The ones he focuses on are socialism, Judaism, and Christianity. And these are all, in their own ways, just inversions of the ruler frameworks. Anyway, so to Dorian's point, though, he doesn't think that you should then judge yourself by the frameworks of the oppressors either. And he doesn't think that you should become an oppressor either. He thinks that, instead of getting deluded by thinking that one framework is right and the other one is wrong, realize that these are frameworks by and for the interests of power that are outside of you, that are never on your side, really. That means you can go your own way. You can make it up yourself, and whether or not you can actually make it up yourself is obviously going to be a pretty big argument. Not an argument I think we'll be having tomorrow, because it's not the most interesting one. The most interesting one is instead, what does it mean to be a Christian, or what does it mean to be a socialist who is engaging with Nietzsche seriously? And I'll just say, I'll be making the argument that this is the best way of steel-manning the anti-socialist and steel-manning the anti-Christian. If you are a Christian who wants to be able to deal with the most compelling arguments against your position, then you should study it. Yo. What's up, Nocturnal Phoenix? Welcome. Yeah, exactly. All right, well, for those who just joined, I was just talking about this. It's tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. I will be interviewing a famous podcaster, philosophy person. Look forward to everyone being able to check that out. Nietzsche destroys Christianity and socialism, and I think that it's a good thing that he does that, because it's just sometimes a really compelling antithetical worldview is able to help us come into a better place, right? His worldview is almost more of a mood that is suspicious at other people's attempts to take responsibility for things that they did not actually do, and then lord it over other people. That would be my summary of Nietzsche. It's like, oh wow, you're so tough, you're so powerful. You were only born into that tough, powerful body and into that rich, privileged family. Congratulations. do the same thing with someone who thinks that they have moral superiority simply because they were born into a poorer position or because they've been marginalized in X, Y, or Z ways. His response would be like, you give yourself moral pats on the back for something that you can't change. It kind of just sounds like an inversion of the other value framework. And then, we'll get a lot more into ressentiment and how that all plays in. I have to go finish reading the genealogy of it's not I keep saying the genealogy of good and evil. That's because I'm reading Beyond Good and Evil, and I'm reading the genealogy of morals. I'm reading them both, and I keep getting their names mixed up. So please forgive me. Once again, this was a test. I wasn't trying to stream live. It just happened. There were just people in the chat, so I thought, why not do it? Because I'm doing a test just to figure out how to do this interview tomorrow, partially because of the internet speed issues. Also just because Facebook and YouTube and Skype, all three make it very difficult to have a conversation interview with someone else live where your faces are side by side. But I do think I found a solution. It's a solution that anyone else who's a streamer will probably be pretty stoked to find out about. StreamYard. Damon Garcia let me know that. StreamYard is basically a really easy plug in and go way that you could interview somebody on your YouTube channel. My problem is that, like, knowing how to do things with OBS is more empowering. Then I'm not reliant on someone who's going to force a paywall on me and try to get me looped into a monthly subscription after I'm already dependent on them, which is how these companies always work. The problem with OBS is that I sound like a fucking chipmunk right now, and then we get choppy. So Being Cool is for Nerds said we should do a stream at some point. I agree. Does that mean your channel has started? Does that mean you have a channel going now? Is that what I have to take from this? Well, you can comment if that's true, but I'm gonna go ahead and sign off because I can't keep doing this because I've got too many things going at once and I don't know how to shut it off because I lost my. I agree. Hold on. Does that mean your channel has started? Does that mean you have a channel going now? Is that what I'm saying? Oh my god, that's my voice. I'm watching myself right now. That's my voice. That's what I sound like. Oh no. Well, you can comment if that's true. Well, you can comment, but sign off because I can't. I sound a little too much like Ben Shapiro. Too many things going at once, and I don't know how to shut it off. I sound like a slightly nicer Ben Shapiro. I lost my. I agree. Hold on. Hold on. Does that mean your channel has started? Does that mean you have a channel going now? Is that what I'm saying? Oh my god, that's my voice. I'm watching myself. Let's say. That's my voice. That's what I sound like. Oh no. Well, you can comment if that's true. Well, you can comment, but sign off because I can't. I sound a little too much like Ben Shapiro. Too many things going at once, and I don't know how to shut it off. I sound like a slightly nicer Ben Shapiro. I lost my. I agree. Hold on. Hold on. Does that mean your channel has started? Does that mean you have a channel going? What is going on? Now? Is that what I'm saying? Oh my god, that's my voice. Oh, I just figured out why it was doing that. Okay, well, good thing this is a test stream. All right, well, to the aspiring video creators in the chat, listen up. I have earbuds in my ears, so you would think, well, what I thought was that I'm hearing the computer and the stuff that's playing in the computer in my ears only. I didn't think that you, the viewers, could hear what was playing off of that video of me playing this video of me talking live right now. So what was just happening is I was playing the version that's streaming now, but there's that lag. So stuff I was just saying, I was talking over, and you, the viewing audience, you were able to hear both at the same time, which is super weird and not what I meant to do. And if you want to know how to avoid that, watch this. Watch this. You aspiring streamers, you. I see you over there. How do I screen share? OBS. Let me screen share. Here we go. Can I get it up there? Yeah, voiceception. How about screenception? Yeah, if I were to go to right here, okay. If you want to know how to do this, if I wanted to listen to myself live, but you, not the viewer, not be able to hear me hearing, if you don't want to hear if you want other people to hear the live version, see, this Inception thing is really messing me up. But if you don't want other people to hear that, you just mute it right here. Okay. Now I could play it like this. And I can hear it, but you can't. And that should be, that should work now. See, I'm talking, but you can't hear me. Okay, yeah, I can hear me talking, but you can't. Okay, and that's because I muted it right here. But likewise, I could also mute the mic. See, then you can't hear me talking, which is actually the pro tip. Mute that, and then you can play music off of your PC, even with headphones in, as we just learned. You play stuff from your PC, and it's picking it up right here. Then we only hear your mic, which only picks up what you hear if your headphones are really loud. Exactly 96 frames. Exactly. 96 frames gets it. You get it. God. Okay. Yeah, yeah. And the one time Rivera was talking over his own videos, this is why it was so confusing. So Rivera, I don't know if you're actually watching right now, but that one time you were streaming, that's exactly what was happening. I think you had your earbuds in, and so you just get the impression that you're the only person who hears what's on your earbuds. Not true. Not true. There are so many ways that things can go wrong with OBS. If you're learning OBS, I hope you don't have a secret life, because there are so many ways that you could really fuck that up with OBS. I've like, you could end up sharing stuff that you're not looking to share. But one of the funny ones, I mean, it could be potentially funny, it could also be tragic, would be if what you're saying right before you go live is confidential. I mean, it'd be funny if you're an asshole and you were talking shit, but it'd be terrible if, like, what you're saying is just confidential. And if you were to start streaming on OBS before clicking go live in the control room on YouTube. Okay, follow this. If you were to say start streaming before you click go live, the stuff you say in between goes, streaming on OBS and clicking go live, the stuff you say before you click go live, 15 seconds of it's probably going up. 15 seconds of that, however long the lag is. So watch. If I say something right now, it's going to take 15 seconds for it to then be playing on YouTube. Okay? And that's because it's all being run through OBS. It's being encoded. It's being sent over. Okay? It being sent. the stuff that I'm saying right now, though, 15 seconds before I click go live, gets played because it's already being sent over. It's almost like OBS is this awesome software that YouTube doesn't know how to properly incorporate into its services. It's almost like YouTube left its creators completely like high and dry. Like we are defenseless against the. I mean, okay, so we were reliant on Google Hangouts, which was already really weird to figure out. It took a long time to figure out how to use that because there were so many weird backdoors you had to go through to get to different features to change. And there were all these weird workarounds that I had to learn. And then YouTube just takes that away and doesn't give us a replacement. Expects us to do it with OBS, which is like, it's just like, this is all technical stuff. I don't know this stuff. Joe Rogan has slipped beforehand a couple of times. Really? That's not surprising. I would like to know more about that. Has he ever done anything really outrageous? Has he ever? Okay, we're about to go live. we're about to go live. Fucking, I hate these goddamn peasants. I always say I don't read the comments, but I've actually been reading all the comments. I fucking hate these viewers. And then he goes live, and then everyone hears him. Now, what would be something that he said? Welcome, Vladimir Venin, a tanky troll account who came by just to say Mao Zedong literally did nothing wrong. I'm kidding. It's a joke. I don't actually know that you're a tanky troll, but you certainly could be with a name like that, with a random comment like that. And I'm gonna take the bait and say that anyone who I'll take the bait instead and just say this. Let's imagine that you were raised in a society where you're taught to think in really simplistic categories. Everything is either good or bad, black or white. You should either be proud of things or ashamed of things. You should be proud of things you cannot control, or you should be ashamed of things you cannot control. Like being black or white. Which, in these simplistic, if you think in simplistic binaries like this, then everything's either good or bad, lies or truth. Let's just and as far as simplistic categories goes, the moral ones come in. If I'm not good, then I'm bad. If I'm not bad, then I'm good, right? This is thinking at that level of resolution with such simplistic binaries that become mutually exclusive dichotomies. They become mutually exclusive dichotomies in a population where nuance is going to get lost. So if you have a religion, if you have a political movement, if you have an ideology, if there's a smart version of that ideology where there's a lot more nuance and these binaries are not mutually exclusive dichotomies, it doesn't matter. There's still going to be a lot of immature and unstable and old and young and different types of people in the population who aren't going to did I say ignorant? Yeah, that's probably the biggest one. It's a matter of ignorance. You're going to have people who think of binaries as mutually exclusive dichotomies. So even when there is more nuance to the binary, because a population is going to digest or receive and inherit that ideology in a less nuanced way, you're going to have people who will collapse all of the already simplistic binaries into even more simplistic mutually exclusive dichotomies. And if you're one of those people who's like, well, what's a mutually exclusive dichotomy instead of a binary? What's the difference there? Okay, well, you've probably heard people say that man and woman, this is a binary way of thinking, and there's actually a lot of fluidity between the different ways of being a male or a female, and that we call that masculine and feminine. And then there's more nuanced takes, right? There's more nuanced takes still that say that actually, like, every man and every woman is made up of masculinity and femininity, that what gets considered a masculine or a feminine trait is a historically contingent thing, meaning that it didn't grow on trees and it didn't fall down from heaven. Like, it didn't have to be this way. We can change it. And if someone doesn't easily fit into or assume the roles or aspects of masculinity that should be assigned to them, or of femininity that should be assigned to them, that doesn't reflect poorly on them and on their character. It's just kind of like saying, oh, that size of pants does not fit you because you are too short or too tall for that size of pants. Well, then okay. And that, that would be the more mature way of looking at it. But to say that any binary, though, the one we're using the example of right now is male and female, to say that it can be simplified even further into a mutually exclusive dichotomy means you've moved into the turf of being like either or. It's either this or that. And either or thinking is really useful as an analytic device from time to time, but it's also really fucking bad if the only categories you're using are already overly simplistic, and then you're reducing them with that either or thinking into mutually exclusive dichotomies, which, then obviously your little identity, your little ego has said, well, I am part of the white, I am part of the good, I am part of the truth, I am part of the, move on down the line. Oh, that means that anything that differs from what I am, from those categories that I identify with the most, must be other bad, stupid, whatever, And so obviously then there's like white, hetero, cis normativity, where, it's just like, okay, well, white as opposed to black, cis as opposed to trans, hetero as opposed to homo. And the thing is like, in the institution of powered interests claiming that the overlap of one end of each of those given binaries being the good, so you have like the white, hetero, cis normative, to say that all of those things are good and that a well-adjusted citizen would approximate those things, is saying that the other ways of being that fall outside of the side of the binary that you're privileging, those other ways are not just invalid, but suspect and potentially hostile. When binaries become antagonistic, exclusive dichotomies, reality does work that way sometimes, right? Like, oil and water don't mix well. Sometimes, it's either you live by not ingesting this poison, or you die because, by ingesting it. Like in a decision like that, sometimes there's a third option. The excluded middle is a fallacy. Is there another option, and you're acting like there's not another option? Often, when people take their overly simplistic binaries to be mutually exclusive, antagonistic dichotomies, part of the process of what's being done is that they exclude everything that falls outside of their binary in the first place. So there's man versus woman, and okay, woman is everything other than man, but also there's nothing other than woman or man. Okay, what about, intersex people? What about transgender people? Oh, well, that falls out. No, nope, 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 nope. Just woman and man, and man is the privileged, category, and that's just the way that it ought to be. I don't like overly simplistic dichotomies. How did I get on to talking about overly simplistic dichotomies? Oh, Mal, the tanky. Yeah. Okay. Imagine being raised in a society where everybody's, where it seems like everybody's cognitive development stopped at the average level of the fifth graders, where a few people advance to the sixth grade, where they actually see that not every binary is a mutually exclusive one, that sometimes there is an alternative option. Okay. And yeah, but you still have a lot of people due to what I'm calling systemic stultification, right? Systems that produce stultifying outcomes, making people more ignorant. Yeah, we have a society where it's advantageous for people to think, well, it's either red or blue. It's either Republican or Democrat. It's either Christian or atheist, or it's Christian versus the rest of the world that is anti-Christian. These simplistic ways of thinking. Let's just say that you were like, well, I'm no longer going to be a Christian because it's making me be a really bad person. It's making me believe that everyone else is going to hell, that everyone else is fallen. It's making me think that every other way of being is an enemy to my way of being. It's making me think that I'm caught up in a culture war that crosses all other political and economic boundaries, and that ultimately all that matters are people who rally around this cross, whatever it is. Let's just say that you left that and then you became a fucking communist. Let's just say that you did that, but you did not use philosophy. You instead left that and you just brought all of the old fucking shit, all of the old ways of thinking, and you brought that to your new communism. You're a fucking idiot still. Now fuck you. God damn it. God fucking damn it. You bring the exact same way of thinking, the exact same way of being simplistic into your communism. You brought all of the worst things about your previous ideology into your new one. I would rather every person who's a shitty Christian become a less shitty Christian than they become a shitty communist. Fuck. So yeah, that's what I think. If that person was trolling me, then you just got me to go off on a 20-minute rant about how people think in simple binaries and how those get reduced into antagonistic dichotomies, and ultimately that's what I think is happening with a lot of tankies. Is they've been taught to think in good, bad, black, white ways, and now that they've decided they're not going to hold on to their old ideology, they embrace whatever the other one was, right? So it's like, oh, well, we had a Cold War. There was a lot of propaganda. Therefore, now that I know the CIA is bad, that must mean everybody the CIA was fighting was good. Whoa! Yeah. Sorry. If you think that's how power and political history works, it's all just good guys versus bad guys. It's all just oppressors versus oppressed. Yeah, if it's really that simple, then, we're all going to die. We're all going to die. Now I'm going to scroll down really quick. Nobody called me out for saying you're a fucking idiot. Well, I'm going to call myself out for that because I did say in a previous stream, I'm trying to not be the, I'm not trying to break myself of the habit, a really deeply ground habit, of using cognitive insults. Okay? First, because, to call someone stupid or to call someone an idiot while those words literally have meanings that have to do with like a person in the most literal sense, that has to do with cognitive ability. It doesn't have to do with ignorance or whether you've been educated on something or whether you're acting foolish. So ignorance and foolishness, like those are a lot more things to be worried about than being an idiot. Because I would also rather like associate myself with people who would be, according to cognitive tests, at least old ones, called idiots. I'd rather be associating with idiots than with people who think they're better than everyone else just because they scored higher on a test. Okay. Not only would I rather be associating with them, but often they might prove to be better people because they might have a better grasp of what their capacities actually are and just be better human beings because they're not so fucking full of themselves. And so for me, I have a middle IQ. At least, I don't know. I haven't taken an IQ test in like since I was a kid. But the whole point was I'm glad that when I was a kid, when I took that test, it showed something average because whether that's accurate or not is besides the point. That doesn't have to do with emotional intelligence. It doesn't have to do with social intelligence. It doesn't have to do with whether you actually fulfill or follow through on your promises. It doesn't have to do with whether you practice empathy, and it doesn't have anything to do with your reading comprehension level itself. Are you able to read difficult new? Are you able to learn? Are you able to acquire difficult to acquire concepts that are going to be useful for better comprehending the complexity of the world? That's not something that's measured by an IQ test. So anyway, big tangent. Had nothing to do with, well, it loosely had anything to do with what I was already talking about, but whatever. Property is theft. Let's get to that one in a second. The Nocturnal Phoenix said, circle back to Beyond Good and Evil. Yeah, that was after my really long tangent, huh? Rivera just shared his Discord. I've been encouraging people to subscribe to Rivera and check out Rivera's Discord. He takes critical thinking in a new direction that I think has a lot of potential for a populist collective I don't know how to say what I wanted to say. Well, it kind of relates to what I was saying earlier about Bo and Bernie being a good, they kind of set, they sort of set my Overton window. They're good models for ways of teaching things that need to be popularized outside of the normal ways they typically get taught that actually antagonize and force people into the kind of reactive modes of thought that I was just talking about. Okay, so Vladimir Venin, the tanky, who I was. Once again, we don't know if they're actually a tanky, and second of all, even if they weren't trolling, they succeeded because I responded. But they said that they like my commentary. They just like liquidating landlords, which is one of those things I think is fucking just so foolish. So foolish. It's like, hey, why don't a bunch of privileged kids in first world countries start appropriating the rhetoric of landlord killing straight from the fucking 18th century as though nothing has changed since the last century. As though the stakes are the same, as though the material conditions are the same, as though the existing political parties are the same. Let's just keep using the same old rhetoric to try to Well, I guess a lot of times when a person in my position in a conversation like this is saying that they see it as just, oh, you just want to be edgy, that could be projection. Because if I said something like kill landlords, I would be being edgy. If you're not being edgy, then it's like your idea about what is plausible or even strategic or wise might not be the same as mine. And that's why I think you're just being, that's why I would normally interpret it as just being edgy. But then again, maybe you are pretty new to political philosophy and you just read the manifesto and you're like, I don't understand what's so complicated about this. Let's get to work. Okay, well, that's fair enough. That's where you're at. It's a good place to be. It's a place I've been at. And I'm just at a point now where it's like, yeah, I fucking have hated more landlords than not. I just don't see them as a class. I don't see them as a distinct class. I can't tell the difference between... Oh, tell me. Okay, just tell me. Which do you think needs to be killed more? A landlord who owns 3 duplexes and collects rent off of those 3 duplexes and does most of the work theirself, or a person who works full-time, we're talking 50 to 70 hours a week, they pay rent to that landlord, they make almost as much as that landlord, maybe they make more than that landlord, and they have a 401k. Okay, they could be making, let's just say that they make about 40 grand a year. Most of that is, spoken for. It's going towards a college fund. It's going towards the retirement through the 401k. I claim, and this is not a radical claim, that the person who has the 401k has more capital than the landlord who has 3 duplexes. That landlord can't just... I mean, I guess we'd have to know a lot more about the particulars. But where do you draw the line is a serious question to ask when you're trying to get a lot of people on board with a new... Not new. I mean, this wouldn't be a new movement. If we're talking about just good old-fashioned communism, obviously that's not a new movement. And people's first question is going to be, what's different this time? And if your answer is fucking bloodthirst that is like has no end game beyond World War III, which, by the way, would mean nuclear Armageddon, not for the whole world, just for parts of the world. Definitely not your privileged little ass. We're talking like, yeah, no. I mean, sure. I mean, if it was Trump trying to prove a point, then sure, it would probably be Portland. Portland gets nuked, and then a few other countries that, the fascists already wanted out of the way. There'd be examples, and there'd be examples until enough leaders who were rebel-rousing the antagonizers in the first place got assassinated, because nuclear threats and assassinations is how they win. And I just don't see any other alternative. And there you go. There's my totally unprepared and half-assed rant about something that I've been thinking about and that I shouldn't have even talked about on here right now. I shouldn't have done it right now because I wasn't fully prepared to. And now if everyone has really good comments to respond, I'll try to get to them before closing out. But I was trying to close out an hour ago. And I'm just going to read through this all really fast. Solidarity will always defeat dividedness, even if the dividedness is on principle. What's that about? Oh, up above. Okay. So Rivera is talking about tribalism, quote-unquote tribalism. If only the tribalists would listen to the actual tribes of indigenous and natives. Sorry, angry native here, LOL. Yes. The Nocturnal Phoenix. Now I'm curious. You shared tribute. So when it has a little accent, I don't know what that means, but pronounce this. Tribu Kickapoo. The Kickapoo people are an Algonquian-speaking Native American indigenous Mexican tribe. They say that it means stands here and there, which may have referred to the tribe's migratory patterns. The name also meant wanderer. The interpretation is contested and generally believed to be folk etymology. Cool. Well, thanks for that comment. You're totally right. That's one of the annoying things. Is like everybody knows about one of the big problems that we have online, but also with, trying to make anything new when it comes to politics and social change. One of the big problems is what people call tribalism, and as the Nocturnal Phoenix is pointing out, if only the tribalists would listen to actual tribes of indigenous and natives. Yeah. I mean, we can call it, it's people being parochial, and every human in-group is doing it. So when it's called tribalism, you make it sound like it's something unique to, indigenous people. But obviously, we're talking about just in-groups and how people have their identities about their in-groups. And that kind of thinking has very negative tendencies. That's all. Nocturnal Phoenix, I don't know. Because I'd have to look up what you're talking about right now. So Nocturnal Phoenix asked if the landlord group, does it include the Veterans Affairs supportive housing? Then you've got some additional thoughts if it does include them. I have no idea. I don't know how to answer that question because I don't know enough about them. But I'm curious to hear how, if it does include them, then what your additional thoughts would be. So, Awkward Ancom is in here saying, yeah, my IQ score has fluctuated, the lowest score anywhere between 60 and 140, and I think it had to do with the material conditions when I look at it, and they manipulated it to their benefit. Yeah, apparently being told that you're not going to do very well affects how you do. Also, being shown your budget, like talking about your budget, any kind of economic insecurity is going to lower your ability to achieve very high on your IQ test, because the place that your brain goes if you are not very privileged and you're thinking about budgets is a place that the brain just goes into a place that is very bad at doing the kinds of questions asked on an IQ test. So if that's an interesting thing I heard about. If somebody has a link to what I'm talking about, please share it. I'm not going to do it right now, but if I find it later, I will share it into the description after the fact. But yeah, the reason I was saying I'm glad that I don't, or that I didn't do very well on the IQ test I tried a long time ago, is because I'm average in a lot of ways, and just embracing the fact that you are average in a lot of ways is like healthy. I think, at least it was for me, because there's a lot of pressure put on little people to excel at everything, and realizing, you know what, if I'm just average at a lot of things, then I can excel at just a couple of things, and then I'm good. Like, honestly, I want to be average at everything and then be like really good at the things that I care about, right? Of course. Instead, what happens is, some people are just absolutely terrible at some things and absolutely like really well attuned to other things. That if you're really good at doing other things that you haven't even tried yet, that means you have latent talent, unexplored potential. It's the thing that educators are all mining for. Every teacher is just sifting. They're like the prospectors looking for gold. They're out there just, yeah, that's what they're doing in a classroom. They're not looking for the person who's the best at math. They're looking for the person who comes alive for math and did not even realize that they could come alive for math until you spoke about it with them in just the right way, and then the things clicked, and now there you go. You've given them a passion, and that passion is one that will make them more useful to themselves. It will give them independence in some ways, and it'll be something that they can fall back on the rest of their life, but that will also probably bring overall positive impact to the whole human project, right? Like that's what you're mining for in the classroom, or at least that ought to be what you're trying to mine for. And yeah, that's passion, and really caring about something is not something that you can really measure if it's for something that hasn't been discovered yet. So a lot of people have latent talent and unexplored passion that they're not actually aware of yet. So they might be depressed and not feel a sense of purpose or direction. Maybe anxious because they're torn between mutually like seemingly equal options that they have to choose between, whether that's a school or a career or whatever. Yeah. Well, all of those things would be a lot easier, wouldn't they, if you had some passion and some sense of purpose and direction because you found the things that you're good at and that you love, right? That's the real goal of education. You heard it here first. Yeah, Ruckley says when the wealthy and powerful lose their wealth and power, they are still people with value, worthy of compassion and empathy. I'm glad you said compassion and empathy instead of respect, because there's a way that a person can inhabit a position of power where, no, they're not worthy of any respect because of that position that they occupy. Then there's the fact that the way they occupy that position can make them worthy of even less respect. But at the end of the day, there's a human there, and that human has people who are dependent on them, and they're also dependent on others in ways that you cannot know. You cannot know their situation. And their basic human dignity is what comes into question. And even if they're not worthy of respect due to how they occupied that position or to the fact that that position existed in the first place, it doesn't change the fact that they're human with dignity. And then people can say, well, yeah, but if you do X, Y, or Z things, then a person is no longer worthy of dignity. And I would say, if that's an argument you're willing to take up, then go for it. But like I said, when we're trying to keep alive an old project to move towards a new society, the first question people are going to be asking is, what's different this time? And one of the first steps towards an answer, I think, is going to be something along the lines of saying, you might be wrong, you might be bad. In the new society, hell, a lot of the things you've done in your life that this old society appreciated, the new society won't even appreciate you anymore for those things. Yeah, it sounds like something you would want to fight coming into existence, right? I mean, hell, you're probably scared that we'd send you off to the gulag, but listen, my friend, no matter how much I might disagree with you, you're still worthy of basic
basic dignity, and you're not going to be sent to a work camp to die. You're not going to be, I'm not going to harass you and try to harm you. I just need you to get out of our way and hand over the means of production. Just hand it over. Be nice, you know. But we need to give people an alternative. And people should be able to, and honestly, I think that they should be able to save face in the process. How we do that is all a big question I'm not sure about. Okay. Tribu Kickapoo, is Kickapoo tribe separated by the Mexican-American border? My tribe is forever departed by bureaucracy. Oh, wow. Awkward Ancom is saying the Alaskan mental health care system or health system is particularly oppressive. In some places, they send you to places that hate Alaskans and have even killed some. Okay, so there's places that the Alaskan mental health system sends people where they're not just hated for the fact that they're there with their health problems already. They're also hated because they're Alaskan. Okay, so the Alaskan mental health system is sending people into unsafe places. That's the worst thing ever. People are having mental health episodes or need extra attention. Definitely don't need to be sent to even less safe places to be able to sort out what they need to sort out. Yeah, honestly, the reality of psychiatry and the mental health system in the United States is just so terrifying, and it's not something that Medicare for All can even. It's not even something that Medicare for All can solve. And at the end of the day, this has a lot to do with just bad psychiatry and bad science, and the degree to which our science has been it's got twisted by big pharma. Just as one example, though, because I know that there's lots of ways that people could hear what I just said and interpret it differently. Okay, so where I'm coming from when I talk about psychiatry being bad, I'm not even just getting into the fact that so much of the science is dominated by the profit motive for big pharma. It's not just that the assumptions driving things are that for something to be considered a disorder, the person basically can't operate in society very well. And so we decide someone has a disorder at the point that they're not able to keep a house or job. Yeah. So that just sounds like you could have the symptoms of what is considered a disorder, but as long as you're able to hold a job and keep a house over your head in the society that is capitalist, meaning you play along with the capitalist game, then you don't have a disorder. But if your disorder happens to be there and you see that that's not a system that you can take very seriously because it doesn't provide you a future in your short term, because you're going to spend 70 hours a week just climbing to be robbed of a soul by the time you actually get there. And it robs you of a long term? Yeah. No. Now you have a disorder. No, but it goes deeper than that, though. It goes deeper than my critique has to do with psychology and how it got inherited by the United States. Basically, if you're into theory, there's got to be a couple of you that are into theory in here. It's always talked about as American ego psychology. American ego psychology plus behaviorism are like the two most damaging currents. Two of the most damaging currents in our culture. and the way that those get appropriated by big pharma and, you know, the DSM-5, and leave us in a weird world where it's like everyone's big goal is to just have a roof over their head, regular employment, and to find out who they really are and enjoy. If I could just be myself and enjoy with a roof over my house and steady employment, I've achieved the American dream. Yeah. Thanks, Awkward and Calm. Oh, you were saying solidarity to the Nocturnal Phoenix and to any Alaskan comrades. Yes. I need to check out your channel, Awkward and Calm. Thanks for being here. Adderall, a sense of worth. I'm guessing that's a typo. Adderall, a sense of worth, and comrades are the most helpful to my mental health. I make the most art and enjoy my life the most when it's like that, and I don't need to be diagnosed. I can't get a disability check because I'm not mentally unwell enough, even though I can't work enough to afford anything. I hate that. I hate that for you, Faith. Yeah, there was a time that I went to get disability, but I wasn't disabled enough to get disability. But I also couldn't work. Couldn't hold a job. And that was when I was like, yeah, I was at a pretty desperate spot right then. And then it's like, should I just try to Yeah, move to California as if it's that easy, says Being Cool is for nerds. Cali is not an easy place to move to. Especially if you are on the edge. If you're living on the edge mentally, if you're living on the edge physically, if you're living on the edge financially, if you're living on the edge ethnically, religiously, genderly, doesn't matter. If you're living on the edge, Cali's not a cool place to live. Unless you know, if all those edges stacked up aren't interfering with you being perceived by wealthier people as someone they enjoy having around. Yeah. Or is useful. I guess if you're still useful. That's basically like, yeah, will the rich people think that I am cool to have around, or will they think that I'm useful? I have to be cool or useful to rich people. Otherwise, life's going to be very difficult. So, do I look pretty cool? Rich people? Are there any rich people in the chat? Super chat $100 if you think I look cool. I'll make you feel good about yourself, I promise. Bring me to your state. Provide me with the roof over my head and the steady employment. And I promise every day I will come to your house, and at whatever time of day you want, I'll come to your house and I'll sit down and I'll spend a half hour telling you that you're right. You're right and you're good, and everything you're doing is a good idea. I'm a little skeptical about a couple of non-essential things, but overall, you've got it. That sounds like a job I could definitely fulfill. I mean, it's basically what you end up doing in how many jobs have you worked where it turned out really what the job was about you making somebody else feel like they're doing okay even though they're not? That is emotional labor. You want to talk about emotional labor. Emotional labor is feeling like not only do I have to work, but it seems like the real job beyond the work itself is me making this fucking foreman feel like not a piece of shit when in reality this foreman is a total piece of shit. Yeah, that that's a specific example from a while back, but more recent examples are people who I end up doing jobs for, like solitary jobs. I'm helping them with their yard or whatever because I post myself on Craigslist to do work for people to make some extra money, and it's like the work itself. Like, there's no way that what they're paying you is actually, they're not paying you the value of the work that you're doing. They're paying you for humoring them because they're fucking bored rich people who need to be humored. Oh, Being Coolest for Nerds was talking about California being better for disabled people because it's better for, there's a lot more care in place for the disabled. That makes sense. That makes sense. And I actually know a couple of people who have been helped a lot by the Californian system. And actually, when they found out that I've not been insured for most of my life, they were just like, they were so taken aback. Every Californian always is. They're like, what? Okay, there's a question. It looks like a really good one. I have to parse it out. I can't really make sense of it immediately. But Aqua Amana says, alongside everything a good person who is a leftist is currently doing. So that was a period, but I'm guessing it's kind of just like an aside. So in addition to all of the good stuff that a good person would already be doing, is the most important thing all capable leftists must do is get education about how bad the system is to the mass audience. Before you worry too much about getting education to anyone else, you need to first learn how to write good questions. How about that? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. It was a little hard for me to parse out what it means, but I get it. I get it now. Aqua, I think that's one of the reasons that I really, really like that question is because it basically gets to what feels like the big divide right now between people who are like, we need revolution tomorrow, we need revolution next week, we should have had it a week ago, we should have had it a year ago, and people who are more like, what? So we can just have a repeat of World War II. Like, what's the end game here? Didn't you hear about the Cold War? Don't you realize the uphill battle? Don't you understand that the workers aren't in the same position, that neoliberalism has essentially got so much of the working class to internalize so much ideology that works against their own interests? That's currently what I see as a lot of the divide, and I'm more on the divide. I'm more on the side that would agree with you, or not necessarily agree with you, but agree with the there's two stances that are really obvious, and then there's other answers to your question. One is to say, no, we need to be doing a lot more than education to the mass audience right now. And the other one would say, yes, like that is the focus right now. And I'm going to be the person who says that for me and my personal life, that is the focus right now. But then I will just say that obviously there's like legitimate alternatives, because organizing itself is a virtue. It's a good in itself. Organizing is a good in itself. That means now there's ways that you could organize where it would be bad, right? Like, I'm organizing for Nazism. Like, obviously that's fucking bad. But what I'm saying is that, like, if you're finding not harmful things to organize with others around, you are learning how to be trustworthy with strangers, and you're learning how to be reliable with strangers. You are building solidarity with strangers. That's more important than making them into communists. It's more important because at the end of the day, it's who's showing up, who's making promises, and who's following through on promises, therefore showing themselves to be reliable and building trust in the communities that they're in. That's what makes you a good participant in almost any organization, and it builds power. It builds real power, not this fucking fake proxy pseudo power that we see people trying to build online. It can't truly be built online if you don't have those people in the real world who show up and follow through on things, can you? There you go. Now everybody knows what my next video is about. Yeah, my next video is going up on Wednesday, and that's basically what it's about. Except I tie that all into time energy. So coming out on Wednesday is Time Energy Part 2. Also, this is coming out tomorrow. Tomorrow is a live stream where I argue that Nietzsche is the best steel man of opposition to Christianity and socialism. That if you want to be a good Christian, or if you want to be a good socialist, you can probably become a better one by contending with Nietzsche. He's a worthy contender. The point is not that he is going to... he's not destroying Christianity and socialism. He's just destroying the bad versions of Christianity and socialism. Well, maybe not. We'll see. Well, I don't know if the person I'm interviewing would agree with that. That's where I'm coming from. Now you know. Wow, Awkward Ancom says our governor is trying to privatize everything, even elementary school and public transportation and fishing. And it's all so he can drill the oil and chop down the Tongas. Wow. A number of states have their own healthcare system. Yeah. Yeah, it's absolute trash if you're in Idaho. Awkward Ancom will be going with comrades to the governor's house once you've got the numbers. Yeah, why don't you all... Yeah, cool, we're gonna privatize your mansion, buddy, for us. So Thomas says, I think a lot of de-radicalization can be done online, but yeah, leftists have to actually do stuff IRL. I don't think anybody gets de-radicalized online except for people who are mostly already looking to get de-radicalized. So this is if you watched my big mood video, then you might know where I'm coming from. Oops, sorry. I'm like popping my microphone. I hope that wasn't too loud. But yeah, I generally speaking, you've had a fundamental mood shift occurring, and that's why you're looking for a new mode that would work for the oncoming mood in the first place. So if you've been in a libertarian mode and your mood that was snugly, comfortably living in that mode is shifting into some other kind of a fundamental mood. You're going to have a fundamental different disposition to the world. You need a new mode. And it's at that point that you need a new mode that you become open to even looking at reasons why the current mode is garbage in the first place. So a lot of people don't trust self-criticism when practiced by other people, that embrace the ideology that you share, because they see it as, oh, you're trying to defect, you're trying to move into some other thing, because they see it as like the fact that you're taking questions or criticism of our side very seriously means that you're probably looking to get to some other place. Sometimes that's true, sometimes that's not, right? So a lot of people who are looking to be de-radicalized, they were already shopping for something else. And sometimes when they're shopping for something else, they get worse radicalized. Once again, though, I claim that a Nazi who becomes a communist is not necessarily better than a liberal or a compassionate conservative, even. Okay, I don't know, because that's just ideology. That's just an ideology. The ideology of being what? So now that if we held a big vote, that person, they wouldn't vote for the Nazis, they would vote for the communists. Hooray! But if they're a piece of shit still, then great. Now we have a piece of shit communist, supposedly on our side. Yeah, this is why ideological purity testing. It doesn't just mean that someone has to believe X, Y, and Z things to be one of the goodies. It can also, well, I'm trying to find the right way to even frame it because I haven't thought about this. What I am saying is that a lot of ideological gatekeeping or purity testing, a lot of it misses whether the people are even people you'd want to be around in the first place. Okay? I guess we could call that a kind of person I would even want to be around, much less work with. Testing. That's a kind of testing we need. It's like, oh, you're right in basically every way, but you're also like a person who I couldn't bring to a bake sale, much less organizing for any kind of political action, because you're so fucking, yeah, whatever it is. There's a lot of different ways that a person can be that would make it so that I wouldn't bring them around other people. Okay, I have a lot of circles that I can go through, spaces that I can be in, with a lot of different kinds of people that don't like one another. And the idea, and this isn't saying like right now I'm doing that. It's just like my life has been one of moving through different circles and being in lots of different friend groups all at the same time. And none of those friend groups really liked each other or got along, but I was able to be across all of them. And I thought that was pretty cool. If you look at personality tests, I'm like, generally speaking, more of an ambassador type. It's a type. It's valid. Not being that is also valid. But the point is like when it comes to organizing and coalition building, it's not just that the people involved believe all the right things. They also have to be the kind of person who, if you brought them to this other meeting, it's not going to become counterproductive merely on the basis of their own ego or the way they act. That's all. That's what I'm trying to say. It's just hard. I wasn't saying you're a shitty person being cool is for nerds. Because I would have just said it. Aggressively, not passively. I'm just kidding. You weren't really saying that. I would, because you know I would never think that of you. You're probably a real edgy, annoying piece of shit in high school, and now you're not any of those things. And you just happen to be a radical communist. But if you brought your edgy, annoying piece of shitness into your radical communism, yeah, I think that would probably, yeah, then you would be the shitty person. So. Okay, awkward ANCOM. I will look into North Star and API. You should yeah, do a video about that. That sounds really interesting. Well, hasn't this been fun? This has been fun, right? I've had fun. I hope you've had fun. We've got 13 people in here. It's been a good time. Appreciate everybody for joining. This turned into a random 3-hour stream I didn't plan on doing. Better hop in and say something really quick if you want to get me on a new tangent, because otherwise I'm signing off, because I don't want to go back and cover old territory. Oh, I will do it right now. Let me do it. Here we go. I'm going to go back to old Joker. I told you I'd say something about the Joker. So here's my hot take on the Joker. Somebody said that the incel interpretation of Joker is garbage because reading Joker through sex, it's like, can you really reduce everything he's suffering or doing in that movie down to the idea that he's not getting the sex that he wants or thinks that he deserves? Okay. That was the person brilliantly refuting a straw man. Now, it might actually be a real argument or a real interpretation that some people somewhere have actually made. That's not why I'm saying it's a straw man. Because we're talking about culture. And if culture is interpreting this film, how is it being interpreted by culture? Well, let's just say that some people in the culture are trying to say, oh, yeah, see, well, it is about incels. This is about incels. And then you've got other people who are like trying to debunk that. No, what's really important is that what the film is attempting to do is lump incels and every other form of political radicalization into the same camp. And they're not trying to do it in a strictly literal way, where you could then argue against it based on the definitions of the words being used. This isn't about... When we use incel, when other people use incel to describe what Joker is, really that's a loose form of metonymy. They're using a word to stand in for another word, a part to stand in for the whole. When they use the part, incel, to stand in for the whole, what is the whole? It's radicalization itself. They want all radicalization online to have the aftertaste of class warfare, so that anybody who doesn't like radicalization online or in real life, when they have that aftertaste, they'll think, it's because of these fucking class war antagonizers. And Nocturnal Phoenix, I think we should probably close on what you're saying. Because goddamn. You said, as a lesbian, disabled, mestizo native army vet, I've been intimately close with people who were multifaceted and bigoted. Friendship can change hearts and minds. Sometimes. Yeah, if you can't get someone to sign on to drinking the woke intersectional Kool-Aid at the same time as the good old-fashioned anti-communist no, not anti-capitalist, anti-fascist, anti-imperialist leftism of yesteryear. If you can't get them to fucking double fist those two glasses, if you can't get them to do that, then they're going to be problematic. They're going to be problematic in whatever things they're not on board with. And normal people are inherently problematic because normal people have not drank both fucking fistfuls of Kool-Aid. And even if they were to, if they drink them for the wrong reasons, that doesn't make them any better, does it? So getting people to rush into saying they believe things just because you think they need to be there, if you rush them into that, they could come into it for the wrong reasons, because they are ashamed, because they are guilty, because they are embarrassed, because they want to be cool, because they want clout, whatever it is. There's a lot of fucking reasons to sign on to an ideological bandwagon poorly, for the wrong reasons, we'll say. So, yeah, at the end of the day, there are people who identify as non-political or as versions of various political affiliations that I fundamentally disagree with, who are doing more anarcho-communist work than the most loudly anarcho-communist people who are talking about these things online. And the reason is because they show up and they build power with other human beings. And when shit hits the fan, they've built power with others they don't see eye to eye with, but they've gained the trust of those other people. And gaining trust is not something that you can do overnight. And you're not going to win hearts and change minds in the realm of ideology without building trust and forming tentative alliances and trying to be a respectful, friendly person to people who aren't trying their hardest to be assholes. So, this is a pep talk for me more than anything else, all right? Because I really need to practice it myself. And it's something I've been thinking about a lot. Because we, the people who like theory, are very susceptible to taking puritanical opt-outs. I guess that's a thing that we'll say. A puritanical opt-out. What does that mean? Well, on the basis of purity, you are opting out of something. Okay. Now, a lot of times, that's good. Okay. To opt out of a conversation where everyone's being assholes for your own health is a good. Everyone should probably agree that that's good. But opting out of getting off your ass and actually going and doing something that requires some kind of sacrifice in a routine manner so you can build trust with people who disagree with you on some things, but you can share values and build towards goals that are actually achievable around other things. That is hard, and we, especially our theoretical asses, love excuses for not doing those things. But at the end of the day, that's where real power is built. That's what real power actually is, and it's also what real value is. So I make that case in the video that comes out on Wednesday. So until then, I hope that you will watch it. I hope that you will see it on Wednesday. It's accidentally a crash course in a lot of Marxist jargon. I didn't really do that on purpose, and now that I realized that that's what I'm doing, it's a little too late to do it purposefully. So basically, I've messed everything up. Oh well, it happens. It'll be a video essay. It won't be my best, but it will be the best for getting acquainted with a lot of really important concepts that you might not already know about. Or if you do know a little bit about some of them, you're about to know a lot more about them in a way that, in a way that's not very popular right now, that hopefully will become more popular as people realize what's really going on there. So to stop speaking in the abstract and get a lot more serious, I talk about the means of subsistence, and I talk about the means of production, and I talk about wages and labor, but labor power is something that a lot of people couldn't tell you what the difference is between labor power and labor. but Engels said it was Marx's like biggest discovery, maybe most important discovery. That discovery is how he makes his break with classical economics. And then if you read the definitions most people give for labor power, it's not very obvious about why that would be such a big discovery, why that's such a revolution in the history of political economy. Well, why? Why is it? The difference between labor and labor power is usually one talked of in the terms of capacity. Oh, not not on Wednesday. That video essay is going to show you the truly revolutionary understanding of this concept that you so rarely will see talked about when it needs to be talked about all the time. So that's it. Once again, final plug. This is happening tomorrow. I'm interviewing a famous podcast person, philosophy, for Nietzsche's birthday. Nietzsche's birthday is tomorrow, and here's Nietzsche kicking Christianity and socialism's asses. Well, if they had their asses kicked, then why are they still around? Well, the reason they're still around is because some Christians and socialists have read Nietzsche and have become better for it. And then the rest of us who are trying to become better at those things will then maybe see that there's something worth wrestling with Nietzsche over, and it will make us all better. So yes, thank you for the solidarity, comrades, everyone. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. If you're watching this after the fact, I hope you know, this is a little late in the video, but you can go back and look at the live chat. That's always an option. Go check it out. Much love. Peace.